Atlanta United has their coach Americans played and scored abroad this weekend. And is there a precedent to the Man City slide? This and more here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most entertaining country, coming to you live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be joined by the jolliest host in American soccer, Mr. Jason Davis. Hello.
Yeah, I forgot my Santa hat. I was going to come much more festive today, and things are a little off. It is a couple days before Christmas, holidays in full swing, daycare is closed. You know how that goes, Rob. So we're working our way through it today. I'm excited, though. Good show coming.
Yeah, we might have children do cameos, as I have a chorus of coughing children upstairs here as well. So maybe we'll just let them finish out the show if they come downstairs. But I want to let you guys know you can give Morning Kickaround, Jason, myself, the gift this holiday season by hitting the subscribe button. We are counting down or counting up to 500 subscribers. All you got to do is click the button, subscribe, and you will be able to follow along. We've been stacking up the segments, over 200 videos. Did you know that, Jason? Over 200 videos on the channel.
That's a lot.
Including topics near and far. You know, Gio's transfer destination, Pulisic's injury, the American bias, our takes on the Euro leagues, American soccer being weird, and much more. Follow, subscribe, Morning Kickaround on YouTube. Follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, or send us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Shout out to the regular viewers. Thank you for tuning in to the Morning Kickaround. And please let us know if there's any more platforms we should reach out to. I think come New Year, with a little bit of time off, we are coming back, was it next Monday? So we will have one more program beyond today before the calendar switches to 2025. I think over the break, I think we'll add podcasts to the
Are you making
offering.
promises? Are you making promises right now, Robert Kerr? Okay. Yeah.
That when I'm on vacation, that I will start uploading podcast episodes. It's careful. You got to be careful when you commit to things. But people have been asking, and so I think maybe we should provide that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think there are some natural ways to branch out from what we do here on YouTube every day, and we'll figure those things out. You know, we'll get some more irons in the fire, and I think we have some big plans for 2025 in terms of coverage, things we want to talk about, stories we want to tell, people we want to talk to. That's a big one for me, is that there are lots of people out there. We did promise, some local stories, some get to know your district on places like Vermont and Richmond, Virginia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Those are all all of those are in the works right now, I guess is the best way to describe it.
So you ready to kick some long balls here, Jason?
Yeah, let's do it.
Prepare to be kicked. Long balls coming at you. Long ball number one. Before Christmas, some MLS fan bases got a present, including Atlanta United. They got their new head coach, Ronny Deila. We went over this and I still messed it up. Ronny Deila hired as Atlanta's new head coach.
Yes, Ronny Deila, MLS Cup champion Ronny Deila, while he was at NYCFC, famously stripped to his skivvies after that title in Portland. I was there on the scene. It was quite a show. The NYCFC fans who made the trip all the way out west really enjoyed it. We'll see if Atlanta United will get a chance to see Ronny Deila and his skivvies. This is a very good hire. Let's just say that. Now, he left MLS and NYCFC, took a couple of jobs in Belgium, I think Standard Liège and Club Brugge, which are two of the bigger clubs in Belgium, had runs there. Ended up in the UAE, I think, briefly, if I remember that correctly. And now coming back to MLS. And look, he knows the league. He doesn't need to have his hand held as he navigates what this league is all about. Atlanta has, we talked about this last week, they have the most GAM available going into the new season to spend on their roster, or they
Is
did. I'm
Dyla
not-
a guy you trust with Gam?
Well, he's not going to be the one making the moves. He's just going to be the one organizing the team on the field. But I think he'll obviously be in those conversations with Chris Henderson and Garth Lagerwey, and they will find the pieces to make it work. And again, I don't know that you could do any better than this if you're Atlanta United. It's an attractive job because there's a big fan base. There's a chance to manage in front of sometimes 70,000 people, most of the time 45,000, 50,000 people. That's pretty huge by MLS standards. You've got an owner who is committed to winning, which is obviously a big deal in Major League Soccer, although parity changes the dynamic a little bit. They've tried the big name, right? They went out and they got Frank de Boer. That did not work. So here, with Garth Lagerwey getting his first chance to bring in somebody and set them up for success, Ronnie Dyla, with a track record in the league, he's going to come in, and I think they're going to be very good next season. I know people talking about, hey, they might be worth an MLS Cup winners bet if you were paying attention.
Wow, that would be quite something. A note that I saw in the press release about this was Garth Lagerwey said he'd never hired his own coach before. He always worked with an inherited coach. So I thought that was pretty interesting for someone who's worked in the league for 18 years or so. I'm sure it has to do with the stability at the places he's been before, but I thought that was an interesting note.
Well, that's fascinating because I think everybody who knows Garth, and obviously saw what he did in Seattle, thinks of him, and Salt Lake, by the way, thinks of him as one of the smartest guys in the league, one of the best builders of a team in MLS. It's why Atlanta gave him the job he's got now. But that is interesting because you'll remember the Jason Kreis championship team that RSL had, but he was not the general manager at the time that Jason Kreis was hired. And then he went to Seattle, and they had Siggy Schmidt, and before Garth Lagerwey arrived, Brian Schmetzer had stepped in when Siggy was fired in 2016. Of course, Brian won an MLS Cup title that year, so there was no way you were going to fire Brian Schmetzer. And so Garth, as you said, has had, and then obviously driving in Atlanta with Gonzalo Pineda, Rob Valentino takes over, but that's an interim situation, not a choice that Garth made. And now here it is. This will be interesting to see whether Garth Lagerwey picks coaches as well as he picks players.
So Ronnie Dyla locked in and dialed in Atlanta. Exciting for them, but surprisingly, I guess more surprising is how many jobs are still open, and we're just a week away from the end of the calendar year. You'd think that this is, getting ready for, preseason prep and roster building and all that, but jobs still open as far as head coaches. Philadelphia, Toronto, NYCFC, and Vancouver still do not have head coaches, and we're 2 days away from Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a dire situation not to have a manager in place yet. I will say that we are probably a month, maybe 5 weeks away from the opening of camps for some of these teams to get ready for the new season. The season kicks off the end of February. None of these teams are involved in Champions Cup. I mean, obviously they were. They probably wouldn't have fired their coaches, so they don't have that to worry about. But they are thinking about next season. In every case, you've got a GM whose job is kind of on the line too. I think Ernst Tanner is pretty well established in Philadelphia, but this is going to be a measure of whether or not his understanding of the league and his ability to navigate things forward for the Philadelphia Union is still worth following, right? If Ernst Tanner says Jim Curtin, who had so much success in Philadelphia, is no longer the guy, well, then you're going to be judging Ernst Tanner on the guy that they do hire. Obviously, Toronto's just been messy and chaotic, and it's one of those situations where, is this a big job? Is it a job people really want? It is a good football market. They've had success in the past, but this is not necessarily a team that you think of as well run. So if you're a coach, are you running to get that job? Are you excited about coaching Toronto FC after what happened with John Herdman? Jason Hernandez is the GM there, so a lot of that focus will be on him, although I think it goes a little bit higher up the corporate ladder in terms of that decision. NYCFC, I mean, what is that? I mean, they're building into their new stadium era, right? They want to try to set a tone as they get ready to open their stadium, hopefully in a couple years. And so you got to get that one right. And then Vancouver. Vancouver is such a weird job because Vanni Sartini did excellent work, but now we know that team is up for sale. And is there going to be an ownership change sooner rather than later? How does that dictate who you hire? Are you just picking whoever's there and cheap if you're the current owners and you know you're going to be selling that team in the near future, to obviously make it so that the new owner can come and clear the decks and start fresh. Those are interesting elements as these teams look for head coaches.
I wonder if there's any concern in the Vancouver fan base. They don't have a coach. The team is going up for sale. Do you think that there's reason to be nervous that, with cities jockeying for positions for MLS franchises and whatnot? Do you think there's reason to be a little bit nervous if you're up in the Pacific Northwest of Canada?
Yeah, absolutely there is. Now, in the aftermath of the reporting about the team being put up for sale, there was lots of, well, there's no real reason to believe they might be relocated. But if you don't have an obvious local ownership group, right, and this all depends on how firm MLS is on whether or not Vancouver needs to stay in Vancouver, whether the Whitecaps have to be there. I also think it's a little bit, it's a little bit troubling that a team with that sort of legacy, because of course their name is the same name as the NASL team from Vancouver, so there's that that shared sort of Pacific Northwest history. They got that with the Sounders. They play that rivalry cup every season with them and the Quakes and the Timbers. I think. I mean, obviously they have a Cascadia Cup, but there's also some other things that work there. I don't know. This is a team that always kind of felt like it wasn't completely cooked, right? They play in that building, BC Place. They don't own it. It's a city facility. It's indoors. It's on turf. There's always been this thing of like, okay, how really in this are the Vancouver Whitecaps? So they've made some nice runs in the playoffs, but they've never really been an MLS Cup contender. And so I do think you have to wonder if relocation is potentially on the table. Haven't heard anything specific about that, but it's not impossible the way that this league is run. It would be a crime. It would be sad. I would hate every bit of it if the Whitecaps were stripped from Vancouver, but we have to consider the possibility.
Hopefully there's no grisly future for Vancouver fans here.
No, I'm not allowing that. No. Judge Jason says no, straight to the poke for you or whatever. That's terrible.
Doing some gavel banging on that one?
That's terrible. Did you just reference the NBA and like pour salt in Vancouver basketball fan wounds here? Is that what you? I don't know if our crossover is very firm with former Vancouver Grizzly fans, but sure.
There was a touch of that. Let's move on. Long ball number 2 here on Monday morning. Another weekend gone by and another weekend of the Yanks abroad putting in some good work. Let's start in Italy. Weston McKennie scores the opener for Juventus versus Monza in a 2-1 win, playing as a fullback.
Interesting that he still remains the Swiss Army knife for Thiago Motta. And we saw him get some playing time. We obviously saw the glorious Champions League goal against City, and there was all this. I mean, I think there's forward momentum for Weston McKennie, but he still is a player who feels like he's never completely solidified.
I'd love to see him be the man, like truly be the man. He's like on the field, he has been a go-to for them, but when will he be like put up front by a team as this is our guy?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he's playing at a legacy club with a lot of ambition. Whether or not Juve can compete right now in Serie A with Atalanta, with Napoli, with Inter, clearly that doesn't feel like they can. Right. By the way, this win against Monza, who's way down at the bottom of the foot of the table, Monza, so you had to win this game. The win against Monza ended a run where Juve couldn't win games. I think they had four games, four at least, with draws in the league. So they are kind of stuck in neutral, and certainly not where Juventus wants to be. I don't know what this means for Thiago Motta's future. Right, because as much as it's like Thiago Motta is this hot coaching commodity, look what he did with Bologna. Look at how he turned them and his football, the way he plays. It's interesting, right? He was in the same wave of discussion as we had with Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen. I mean, not the same football and obviously not the same league, but the same idea of like, okay, these are the new soccer minds that are coming through, and you better grab on to his coattails because he's going to go off and do something amazing. And Juve needs the talent to do it, but that's 6th place is not good enough for Juventus. So is Thiago Motta, is his job secure if they remain kind of floating there through the new year? Like that I don't know. And then you get into that place of like, okay, what does that mean for Weston McKennie? What does it mean for Tim Weah if they have to go through another coaching change?
You hope that doesn't happen. I mean, Juventus was pretty patient with their manager previously, and it's hard to expect that. But I mean, you wouldn't say Juve fans or the organization would necessarily be mild mannered and be like, "Hey, let this guy cook for a little while." But to be fair, he hasn't lost, and Juventus has not lost since October 22nd. They just have a whole lot of draws in that run. They've
Yeah,
got some
yeah.
wins, but a whole lot of draws. And you noted that Monza, the foot of the table. If you saw McKennie's goal, you could see the defensive play and effort.
You can see why.
You
can see
can
why
see
they're at the
why
foot of
they're
the
maybe
table?
not at the top of
Should
the table.
You're saying that a player shouldn't shouldn't be unmarked about 3 feet from the goal line and able to side volley in a corner kick? That's what you're saying? Is that what you're saying, Robert?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's essentially like an equivalent to like a 1 yard goal line touchdown untouched. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that if you're gonna if there are some goals that are easier than others, and that was on the easier side for sure. Elsewhere on the continent, Malik Tillman scores the third in a 3-0 win for PSV. A
Yeah.
beautiful right-footed curler from the American national team player.
We're at a point now with Malik Tillman, right? And it hasn't come together for the national team. And we can take that particular issue and we can put it to the side. And it's going to be on Mauricio Pochettino to get the most out of Malik Tillman when he suits up for the United States. Because so far it has not clicked. He's had some moments, but I think overall we're all a little underwhelmed with what Malik has brought to the U.S. men's national team. So we can put that to the side. If we're just taking, hey, here's an American player, or here's a U.S. international who does get called up on the regular for the U.S. men's national team and figures to be in the picture going to 2026, and we're watching what he's doing at PSV Eindhoven, and we're seeing Ricardo Pepi in that same team and the rumors around him about a potential move, something like a 20 million euro offer from somebody. You know, I did see that listed in the internet forums as Liverpool. I don't know that it's confirmed anywhere at all. And the way that Liverpool's playing right now, I don't think I want Ricardo Pepi going to Liverpool. He will never touch the field. He'll never get in to that team with the way that they score goals. I don't, who knows? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Doesn't matter. Again, it's reported a 20 million euro offer for Ricardo Pepi from a Premier League club. Where is the smoke for Malik Tillman? This is what I'm wondering. Like, is he, obviously it didn't happen at Bayern Munich. He lands in a good place at PSV Eindhoven, and we all respect Dutch football and the history of Dutch football and all those things. But there's nobody that sees Malik Tillman playing as he's playing at PSV Eindhoven and thinks he should just stay there. He should just stick it out. Be at PSV Eindhoven and play like this, because if he is going to improve his national team output, and if he is going to be a better player in his career, he's got to be challenged more. And PSV is not the place to be challenged more because they are dominant. He gets good goals. But where is the potential move, and what does that look like, and where would we want? It's on him. It's on his agents. It's obviously on the football market. But where would be a good place for Malik Tillman to land so that he can elevate his game, and then, again, we can see the fruits of that with the U.S. men's national team?
That's a good question. Kind of looking at his age, he's 22 years old. He's been at, he's had some big clubs, obviously. Where would be his landing spot? Should he just like rack up some experience and, notch some goals and win some trophies, or kind of throw his hat in the ring elsewhere? I mean, that's a hard one to question.
I'm not trying to rush him out the door, right? I'm not necessarily saying he needs to go this next summer. But there will be a moment, there will be a limit to what he can be as a player if he just stays in Holland, right? And again, there is a push-pull here, right? And we've seen it with various players. Sometimes you just need to be in a place where you're comfortable to be good, to play well, to be happy, right? Just like all of us, we want a good working environment. It's why we're so good here on Morning Kick-Around, because we have a wonderful working environment, right? We're all comfortable, we're all happy. I mean, that's a major part of this, and I don't think the idea should be take Malik Tillman out of PSV and drop him in some deep water somewhere and see if he can swim, because you want to have him be happy, be comfortable, play well, because those things are working for him. But there is a limit because it's the Eredivisie. It's just not the same level as if he went back to Germany and played in the Bundesliga, if he landed in the Premier League, if he played in Italy. Those are higher levels, and I think we're ready to see him make those moves, or at least for there to be a real discussion about where he might go next.
For those unfamiliar, if you want to see some goals, check out PSV this season. After 17 games, they've scored 59 goals. So if you want to catch some goals, PSV games are the place to go. Switching to Britain, Tyler Adams, 89 minutes for Bournemouth as they win 3-0 versus Manchester United.
Manchester United is a bad soccer team. It's a bad soccer team right now. Okay. Forget all that, right? Whatever. Bournemouth is a good soccer team. Iraola is a good coach.
Oh, yeah.
And I think my trust level right now for Iraola when it comes to Tyler Adams is a 10 out of 10.
Like, the best it's been since he's been in England, right?
I trust that Iraola understands how to get the best out of Tyler Adams right now without putting him in jeopardy, right? He made a start. He made, I think, 2 appearances, if I remember correctly, and then we didn't see him for a bit. Like, there had the midweek stuff coming. There was League Cup. It seems as though they are being very smart with Tyler Adams and what they get out of him. And he steps in and plays alongside Christie in this double pivot for Iraola, and they beat United, deservedly so. Very poor United team again. And now we're at a place where, okay, we're getting ahead of steam. Tyler Adams is starting to get the engines really warmed up, and I'm excited to see what the next phase in the second half of the Premier League season looks like for Tyler without having any real expectations, right? Without going, well, he's got to play this or he's got to play that. No. Trust Iraola to manage Tyler Adams, because what we're seeing right now is the best we've seen Tyler for a very long time.
Especially on the club side. And that's a good point. Yeah. Chill. He might not make every single lineup. There's 1.5 million games in the next couple weeks. Don't have to play all of them. And maybe he stays healthy through those spots and he can, really, take that next step in the springtime and become, the most juggernaut version of Tyler Adams we've seen so far. He got a 7.6 FOTMOB rating, 61 touches, 4 tackles, and 32 of 42 passing in this match.
I don't want to even look too much into the performances, right? That's a solid. By the way, that's a Bournemouth team that across the team was 7 and 8 for FOTMOB ratings, which tells you that they were good, and on the other side, United was bad.
Yeah.
Right? So Tyler does he 7.6 is a fine rating, but it's not even it's what, like 7th, 8th on his team, because everybody played well on the day and they won the game pretty handily. But I don't even know if I care too much about what his output is, right? Just as long as he gets in a good stretch of minutes and comes off healthy. And we will tick this up as time passes. Like, we'll tick this up when we get to January and February, and we'll start talking about, okay, well, now I need to see more out of Tyler, or I really do care how many recoveries he has, because that's his bread and butter. I want to see his passing numbers look good. I want to see his passing going forward look better, because that's the thing that's always lagged for Tyler that would make him truly next level and probably win him a lot more minutes at a team like Bournemouth.
Good point. I believe his stat on the day was 1 for 6 on long balls in that match. So,
well, but you said 32 of 42 passing. How many of those passes were forward? How many were square balls? And how many went backwards? Right. Those things are part of it. And Tyler's not going to be asked to be the one to unlock the opposing defense. That's not his job. But I do want him to be thinking forward rather than thinking square.
One last note, Americans abroad. Brendan Aronson got on the score sheet for Leeds in their win, and plenty other Americans saw the field.
Real quick on Brendan.
Oh, okay.
That's his level, right? This is his level.
Championship?
Now, yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the right kind of Premier League situation, he could be okay. Maybe in the right Bundesliga situation, he would be good. But it's clear that he is good enough for the championship level, and this is still early in the championship season, right? The championship season is epically long. 46 matches in the championship. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, there's 24 teams. Yeah, 46, you're right.
46 games. So 46 games to see if you get promoted. Leeds right now in second place, 3 points back of Sheffield United. So they're in an automatic promotion spot. It's very narrow. It's only a point lead over Burnley. So we'll see if he can help them win promotion. And then, we'll go back around. Is Brendan Aronson a Premier League player if they win promotion? Big question. But right now, doing well.
Do your thing, Brendan. Long ball number 3, moving up to the Premier League. Wild weekend. Really capped off by Liverpool's 6-3 win away at Spurs. Probably the quintessential Spurs performance, really. And Liverpool hitting new heights. Mo Salah becomes the first player in Premier League era history to have 10 goals and assists before Christmas.
And yet, he's underrated.
Underrated and without a contract.
Have you and I talked about the Guardian Top 100 on this show?
We did. We talked about Pulisic
briefly?
at 95, yeah.
Pulisic at 95, which again is a joke. But I will point out that Mo Salah came in at number 11 on that list. And it's not just that he came in at number 11. It's that there are players above him that you just cannot fathom how they could be ranked higher than Mo Salah. And I will point specifically to Lautaro Martinez and Dani Carvajal. Dani Carvajal is a very good player. Dani Carvajal is an excellent defensive, but is he better than Mo Salah? Really? Really? Like, no, he's not. Clearly he's not. Like, I don't. This was an
What is it
aggregated-
about Mo Salah's demeanor, where he plays, even his nationality? Do you think all those things play in part, or do you think that there was like a couple dips around injury that took his prestige away? Like what has led to him not being respected?
Well, I do think trophies are a part of this, right? And they've won a Premier League title in a season that was kind of weird for everybody to process. I think it has a mental asterisk on it. It just does, right? Is that fair to Liverpool? Probably not.
It's not fair, but it exists for sure.
But it exists, right? It has a mental asterisk on it. And yeah, the Champions League, and he's had those moments, and I think it is. Yeah, I don't know what it is. There are players. This happens occasionally where we just have a blind spot. And
is it like a Griezmann sort of a thing? Like you're the best player on the third best team or something like that?
Yeah, it might be something like that, right? When you play in England and Manchester City is dominating conversation, and again, everything is like, well, Manchester City never loses a game when Rodri is on the field. Rodri automatically gets elevated. Now, again, I can't say Rodri was number 1 on the Guardian list, by the way. So again, Ballon d'Or winner, number 1 on the Guardian list. I can't say that people got that wrong. Like, oh, Rodri's not the best player in the world. I can't say that. It's a subjective opinion, and this is 190 people's votes who were tabulated to determine that Rodri was the best player in the world. I can't say they're wrong, but what I can say is it's not like it is an absolute truth that Rodri is the best player in the world. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
We can vote that he is, but that doesn't mean and again, there's no real objective way when you're comparing positions and value and teammates and everything else. Like, there's so many factors in why a player is good in a way that shows we should vote for him for something like this, right? Like, if you took all these players out of their individual teams and ran them through like a skills gauntlet and said, okay, let's just use that to determine the best player in the world, it would be a completely different list. Right, at the end of the day, if you tossed out how many goals Mo Salah scored, or how many games City won when Rodri was on the field and how many they didn't, or the fact that he won Spain a European title, like if you took those things out and just like watched them do skills, hit a long ball, finish, trap the ball, like all the basic things, this would be a different list. But it is our brains are filled with data that is not comparable to another piece of data. You cannot compare what Rodri does for City to what Mo Salah does for Liverpool. Those are different things. They're different jobs. They're both soccer players, but they're asked to do different tasks. So then we get into this conversation, okay, is Mo Salah playing at Liverpool? Is he better than Erling Haaland playing at City?
Right
I
now,
could say
right,
I could
yeah.
argue he is, right? I definitely could argue he is. Erling Haaland's number 3 on the list. If Erling Haaland, who scored goals at Dortmund, who scored goals in Austria, if he wasn't at City, would he have anywhere close to the numbers he has? Probably not. If he was playing at United, he wouldn't have these numbers. He wouldn't be number 3 in the world, but that's not how it works. we have to consider how many goals Erling Haaland scores for Manchester City or has scored for Manchester City, because it's not happening right now. I don't know. It's interesting to me. And yet at the same time, I'm very confident in saying that Mo Salah is not a worse soccer player over the last year than Lautaro Martinez. As important as Lautaro Martinez was to Inter, Mo Salah is a better soccer player.
We're going to dig into City and try to find a precedent for this sort of in-season fall from grace. But just to note, City lost again, this time to Aston Villa. Duran, again, shocking the soccer world by continuing to be a goal machine. And another City player, or cast-off City player, Morgan Rogers.
Yeah.
That was really, in my mind, maybe I haven't been watching Villa closely enough, but he absolutely ran the show in midfield.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a weird spot. We're going to talk about City later on in the show again, but this is such a weird spot to try to judge that performance for Villa, who hasn't been as good as they were last year and has struggled a bit at times. I mean, they went through a rough patch that was only not as talked about because City was so bad, right? City was dominating conversation because their collapse, and meanwhile Aston Villa's like, yeah, we're just over here dropping points left and right too. Like it just wasn't. Hasn't been good. So. To see them win that game, add to City's misery, Morgan Rogers popping off, it's fascinating this season so far.
Other notables in the Premier League: Everton held Chelsea scoreless. A big result for Everton. Good for the teams ahead of Chelsea. And then Arsenal stay in the mix, get a big win, over Crystal Palace. And then Luke adding to the chat here, Haaland's heart is not at City. Hasn't been all season. Oh, boy.
Doesn't throw his weight around or work as hard as his physicality would let him. Release him to Real Madrid already. I mean, I do think that because things have soured at City, it is very possible. And if there is the sense that the charges looming are going to hurt City's chances of, well, now they've lost the games, they're not going to win the title. But is that sort of, if you go back in time and you think about the beginning of this run, were the charges looming, putting into the air this idea that we're not going to win anything this year, therefore why am I going to give 100% effort? Even if that's a subconscious kind of thing for a player like Erling Haaland, it is definitely something City has to deal with, and we may see the exodus. It may happen. And it's not even just about I don't want to be at City anymore. It's also about a lot of these players are plus 30, and the age has absolutely been a factor for that club.
I gotta say, just a final note in the kind of weekend review here in Long Balls, that it was pretty sweet. Liverpool and Lions back to back on Sunday. That was a pretty good sports Sunday for old Bob.
Good Sunday for Rob Kerr. I'm glad you had a nice one. The Broncos lost on Thursday, and Fulham couldn't score a goal against Southampton. So let's just continue forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe to the channel. We are on the trek to 500 before the end of the calendar year. So hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit us up at morningkickaround@gmail.com or follow along at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and what's the other one? Blue Sky. There we go. All right, we're going to take a breath, come right back, and hit you with today's hot topic. All right, Monday's hot topic. We are on Christmas Eve, so a themed hot topic of the day. Which teams gave their fans presents and which teams gave them coal here in 2024?
Yeah, this has been an interesting calendar year. I mean, we come off recently the MLS Cup title for the Galaxy, who turned it around after not being a major contender for trophies the last couple of seasons. That's been an incredible story, big present under the tree for Galaxy fans going into 2025. I mean, recency bias is a thing here, but you talk about Manchester City and the way things have gone for them. If we're just talking about MLS, though, if you want to keep it local and domestic for a moment, Rob, the Red Bull run, that's a good one, right? Yeah, they came up short in the final. Disappointment there. Still haven't won an MLS Cup trophy as an organization. We're going to see what this offseason, this winter brings. They have signed Eric Choupo-Moting, which is an interesting one. Is he worth the money that they're spending on him? My gut says no.
He's an unlikely hero.
he's an unlikely big spend for them, right?
Yeah,
Like
of all the players to spend big on, it's interesting that he's the one.
yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. I do think a lot of people are scratching their heads over that move, but maybe it comes good. There is the looming possibility that John Tolkien takes his talents to Europe. I think there is some chatter around that. So they would have to go and find a left back to replace him. And he not only is a good left back and obviously worthy of a European move, young talent, but also their set piece guy. We saw that play a big role in their MLS Cup playoff run. So yeah, but still a wonderful present for Red Bull fans to have had this kind of season. I will say that, let me throw this in there as well, since we're talking about MLS teams. I will call him a friend of the show. Hasn't been on the show yet, but Matt Doyle, MLSsoccer.com armchair analyst, a guy that most people know of. He was on Blue Sky, and he's got a new Substack where he's just dropping some thoughts, national team things, talking about various things that matter to him that he's not publishing on MLSsoccer.com. And he was hyping up local coverage of MLS teams. I think it's soccer coverage, period. But, of course, his main area is MLS. And there are lots of very good local outlets covering these MLS teams, filling a vacuum that exists because the legacy media, the newspapers in the area, the news channels, they're not doing that work. The radio stations, they're just not doing that work. Soccer still lags behind. I mean, all the resources go to the NFL team, the NBA team, not to the MLS team. So I would encourage people, just to piggyback on what Matt Doyle was doing, I would encourage people to support their local coverage of MLS. And there's a lot of very good, I don't want to start naming them because I'll forget somebody, but I think there are some lists out there on Blue Sky. If you're on Blue Sky, Ben Wright, who covers Nashville SC, has a list that you can follow everybody on it. I'm on that list, even though not local coverage. I'm on that list, so you can follow me there too. But I think the Red Bulls are a team that they have a vacuum. They're a black hole a little bit in terms of coverage and interest. And what I'm hoping is that this run brings some more focus to the Red Bulls. I mean, they've always been a tweener organization, Rob, right? They're in New York, but they play in Jersey. They're owned by this big conglomerate international outfit that doesn't always seem that interested in helping them succeed. They are now overshadowed in the market by NYCFC. And once NYCFC gets that stadium open in Queens, it's going to be even tougher, I think, for the Red Bulls to get much attention in the market. They do not have a ton of good local coverage. We have Seeing Red, the podcast that Mark Fishkin does. He's not doing daily coverage, right? That's just a really hard lift for a lot of these teams. So if you are a soccer fan in America and you want to see things grow and support coverage like that, I would encourage you find Ben Wright's list, go read Matt Doyle's piece on his Substack, do what those people are trying to do and support local coverage, because we are in a place where if we don't give a little bit to them, it won't exist for much longer.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So local coverage, definitely a present under the tree of American soccer fans. Going to my list as far as fan bases for teams, I know I set the parameters or presents or Cole, but I'm going to give a good pair of socks under the tree for Atlanta United fans.
Okay.
You didn't expect much almost the whole year, and then
Right.
things got like really hopeful and exciting at the end. So it's not Cole, but you didn't get an Xbox, but you got a good solid pair of socks that didn't have any holes or anything in it.
Okay, all right. But are these like fun socks, or are they just boring, like gold toe kind of standard socks? I mean, what are they warm? I mean, Atlanta, they don't really need the. You probably have some incredibly warm socks in your rotation, Rob. I think down in
Oh
Atlanta,
yeah,
they don't need those.
yeah. I got some good ones, and then sometimes you just have to double up. You just got to
have to
wear the
double up.
second pair.
Wow.
You
That's
put the ankle
crazy.
socks over the top of the thick ones.
I see.
That's how you
I
leave
see.
the house. I mean, we were in a deep freeze. It was like 9 degrees yesterday. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's-
you definitely need
it's-
the double socks.
It's cold where I am. It's not quite that cold, but yeah, that's definitely okay. So socks for Atlanta United, a good pair. Garth Lagerwey, Chris Henderson went out and got some really nice socks for you for Christmas.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
I think they're probably Atlanta United themed socks because that makes it more interesting to me.
I would say LA Galaxy fans definitely got the Xbox.
Okay, that's the Xbox.
Yeah.
That's the Xbox. Okay, or the PS5 or whatever the hot. I don't even know. Like
What is like the
I don't
tippity
know.
top
What's
present in
the
2024?
present of 2020? Is it like a motorized scooter? Is that like every kid getting a motorized scooter now?
Tickle
No?
Me Tesla.
That's I don't know what that would be, but it's disturbing that you
It's
created that
modern.
in your brain right now. All right. So what else? What else? I mean, we're still waiting. Here's the thing: we are 2 days from Christmas. Is Philly, Toronto, Vancouver? I know we covered this already, but are they gonna get something? Are they gonna go out and finish the last minute shopping and have a head coach under the tree for those teams, for those fans, or are they gonna come out of Christmas wondering why there was no gift for them from their clubs?
I think it'd be pretty odd, and that would be pretty disappointing. Have you ever, come down the stairs to no presents under a tree? I mean, that would be pretty bleak, to be honest. I mean, to be going into, what should be the, setting the foundations for your year. MLS seasons are long. I mean, what they're doing now in the next couple of weeks behind the scenes for your favorite MLS franchise are setting the scene for what you are going to have to either endure or enjoy next year. So I would be pretty concerned if I was a follower of those teams without a coach and have nothing under the
Well, if you look,
tree.
if you look at this, okay, so obviously the MLS playoff season is long, and so we were very focused on the teams that were participating in the playoff run, and the Red Bulls had the Cinderella story, right? So that's a very good gift. I don't know what that gift was under the tree. They delivered it already. It was early. It was an early gift for the Red Bull fans from their club that they made that run to the MLS Cup final. You figure like, okay, Inter Miami, is there a big present coming from Inter Miami to their fans, because we see them gobbling up GAM. They sold Leo Campana to the Revolution. What does that mean? I mean, I think if you're a Crew fan, you're hoping that Wilfred Nancy comes down the chimney on Christmas and gives you a gift and isn't off in France being Père Noël or whatever like that.
Yeah, who would be most scared to see that tweet congratulations and wish you well on your next adventure? Who would that be? Columbus is would that be the most devastated team if they had a message like that?
I think so. I mean, again, we talked about John Tolkien leaving the Red Bulls potentially in a sale. I think there are a couple other players that could make moves, and you'd be crushed if you were a fan that you saw them. I mean, look, I think there are a lot of Philadelphia Union fans who are still smarting over the Jim Curtin thing and his departure. And again, the Union haven't delivered yet. There's no present there. The clock is ticking, and they don't have a guy to lead their team. I mean, you look at the rest of this season, definitely Chicago Fire fans got another lump of coal. It just fits the theme.
They might be pre-ordering 2025's lump of coal, too.
Oh, that's not... Well, I don't know. I think Greg Berhalter will have them competitive. I mean, you could say that the season was a lump of coal, but Berhalter is at least a reason for hope in the season.
One polished piece in there.
One polished piece of coal? That's what Greg Berhalter is? Wow,
maybe it's a little harsh, but...
Okay. All right. Let's say RSL. I think that was a pretty nice gift. I don't know what the equivalent is. Maybe a very nice bathrobe or something from RSL for their fans. Because that's a club that continues to surprise everybody by being in it. They haven't crested the hill, but I think you got to give Pablo Mastroeni and that team a lot of credit for the way that they're run and the success that they've had. I think if we're talking about a season of hope, you're hopeful if you're a Rapids fan. You're hopeful if you're a Minnesota United fan. You're hopeful if you're an Austin fan. I mean, they missed the playoffs, but they signed a new coach, cleared out some dead weight. I don't know how hopeful. Are the Revs hopeful? Caleb Porter looks like he's coming back after finishing 14th. Again, they went out and got Leo Campana. Is there a reason for hope up in New England? Is a good question. Did they gift their fans something that actually feels like a gift? Or are you still like, nah, I don't know. Like you went out and bought the Chinese version, the cheap version of that really nice toy I wanted, instead of the good quality version. This is going to break after 3 months, and we're going to have to do this again.
If I was a Revs fan, I wouldn't be lunging for the "I'm satisfied with that" button if there was an option. Into the comments to answer your question, we got a national team footballer in the comments who is looking to hire a new coach. We still got Toronto, Philadelphia, NYCFC, and Vancouver. Kind of overseas, naughty or nice list, Cole or a present. I don't want to jinx it, but Liverpool, they've been, they've given presents. I mean, we didn't know what to expect with the change in leadership at Liverpool, and it's, come up roses. So at Christmas, It's a present, so hopefully that doesn't turn sour in the spring of 2025.
Yeah, there's no way
and then
to
Everton
really
got a present last night too with some
because of the schedule. Like the presents that fans are getting from their Premier League clubs are more like, they're nice, but they can't be the huge present that you really want, right? That Christmas is in May when you're a Premier League fan.
So we got a sapling. We got a
Yeah,
sapling.
you got something that maybe will grow into an incredible present, I guess. I don't know. It's a chia pet.
You just took it right out of my mouth. The chia pet, and then you could get Arnie's. Will his hair grow by the spring?
Oh man, we need an Arnie Slot chia pet. We probably need you get Mo Salah. You could get the Premier League trophy and just maybe it grows and looks very nice. That the Liverpool the front end of the season has been incredible. That's a really nice gift. I would certainly say Bournemouth has given. We just talked about the win over United. Bournemouth has given a very nice present to their fans as they sit fifth in the table. Obviously, Nottingham Forest. I mean, that is something that Nottingham Forest fan could have ever dreamt of. And who knows how long it lasts for both those teams, Forest and Bournemouth. Although I think Bournemouth has the better squad, and Bournemouth has a better chance of hanging around in a European spot. It's a lump of coal for City fans, and they haven't had one of those in a long time. They haven't had this. It's been
It
really
started
rough.
well. What's a present that like on the first day it's great, but really falls apart there afterwards?
That's a good question. I don't know. We'd have to look into to think about. Yeah, it's like we got you a new car, and then the transmission goes out
After 2 months.
After a couple months. Yeah, that seems to be the case. I would certainly say. I mean, I'm reasonably okay with the 17 games that Fulham has put in. 9th place. Okay,
Top half.
like to aim a little bit higher, but top half is not the end of the world. I think. Brighton fans had to be a little disappointed with their Christmas.
Yeah.
They had some higher hopes. Obviously, another new manager for them. Spurs. Wow. Where do we begin? What can we say about Tottenham Hotspur?
There was something on the commentary. I think. I wish I could get this right, but it was their worst start in over 15 to 20 years.
It's probably, and here's the thing: it's a terrible start for Spurs, and everybody's talking about obviously shipping what that is 9 goals in their last 2 matches between the League Cup against United and this one against Liverpool. Just absolute bonkers football that Ange Postecoglou plays. I mean, look, and obviously, injuries are part of it. Right?
Their injury list is huge.
It's a long injury list, and when you don't have your top 2 center backs, that is just a disaster waiting to happen. That is
or
a fair
goalie.
thing. Yeah, right. Well, and Forster, yeah, that is absolutely true. But it is Manchester United, right? Let's be clear. It's not a lump of coal. It's a lump of something else. It's a lump of something else that your dog maybe delivered to your front lawn. That's what Manchester United, and
It's steaming season.
I'm just like I'm a kind of person like, okay, you got to give a coach time. Like you have to be patient when a new manager steps in. Those are not Ruben Amorim's players. This is not. He did not get a chance to work with them going into the season. He's installing a new system with 3 backs in the middle of this thing and trying to make it work. And clearly he's been given a mandate on some level from the ownership, from Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos to fix it. And it's okay if it's not great right away, right? Like if you're Ruben Amorim, you don't take that job unless you have some guarantees that you can work through some bad stuff before you get to the good stuff. But the problem is, as they sink further and further and further, and as they sit in 13th position, as we get ready to hit Boxing Day in the turn of the calendar, the fans are not going to be like, "Yep, I'm totally on board with this slow process of working out the kinks and getting us to a place where we can play good football again." If this team is in mid-table or worse when we get to March, what's going to happen? Like how is that tenable for Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe and Ruben Amorim, who I think walked into a bear's den and is dealing now with the problems that United has?
Yeah, too many problems. I think he volunteered to a gold-plated room of coal did Amorim walk into.
Okay, sure.
But that should do it for that topic. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button. Follow along at MKickround on social media. Write us a note. Who do you think is getting a present or some coal? Write us a note. morningkickaround@gmail.com. Catch our breath. Come right back with today's big question here on Morning Kickaround. Following yet another Manchester City defeat this week to Aston Villa, the big question here on Monday morning, is there a sports precedent of a team falling off in season like this, similar to what we're seeing in what I'm calling the Manchester City slide?
Yeah, we were trying to find some comparison to this, some example of a team within a. Now, look, baseball is famous for teams like being in first place at the end of July or whatever, and then collapsing, right? That happens all the time. I mean, you think about. I'm going to go deep in my baseball knowledge here, so if you don't know what this is, it's fine. It's just an example. I remember the '69 Mets were way back of the Cubs in the division, and then had to come back. And eventually,
You were alive in '69?
I was not, but I read a lot of things. I understand how history works, and I can go back and review those stories.
Fair.
This is obviously you have. You can talk about other sports, right? You can talk about baseball. You can talk about football. It happens. Teams, win their first 6 games and miss the playoffs. That happens. But the difference in the kind of seasons and the rhythms of those seasons makes this really tough because baseball is 162 games. Like, that's a lot of games to be good for a while and then bad for a while and then good again. Basketball's like that. Hockey's like that. Football's not. American football's not because it's now, 17? Is that what they play? I can never keep up. They're playing 17 games now. It used to be 16. That's not enough games for it to be like, oh, they were the best team in the world, and then suddenly they're terrible and they can't possibly win again. It doesn't feel like that. Because we were talking about, like, from season to season. Like the Patriots are the best team in the NFL, and they're going to the Super Bowl all the time, and then Tom Brady leaves, and, they're not good anymore. And that's a collapse, but it's not the same kind of collapse we're witnessing from City because we didn't start the year thinking, well, this is going to be a really tough season for City. They lost their best player. That's not what happened. What happened is we thought City was going to be, again, a title contender. Maybe not win it, because it is possible that Liverpool or somebody was going to be good enough to challenge them. Arsenal got close 2 years in a row. Maybe this was the year Arsenal would break through. But we thought City would still be one of the two or three best teams in the Premier League, and therefore more than likely one of the two or three best teams in the world because of their Champions League campaign. And that's not what's happening. What's happening is they cannot, for the life of them, win a game. And I don't have a good comparison for this. I cannot remember a team going from that height to simply cannot win. And they're still in 7th, and they're only a couple of points off of the top 4. There's a good chance they'll be a Champions League team when all this is said and done, Rob. But it is still dramatic in how bad this has been for them.
What makes it harder to fathom is what would be the thing that they change to turn it around. I mean, their injury list, meanwhile, obviously there's key players out, and then there's some players that, where's Kevin De Bruyne on all this? And, like, is he injured, just not in favor? Like, what's going on with all that? But, a lot of the teams that we would immediately think of, it's like a big departure, or just like the whole team is injured, or there's some big sort of like tangible departure or leaving. But to go from first place, a win, Holland, maybe we should consult a religious some religious input. Did Erling Haaland just totally piss off the soccer gods when he told Arteta to be humble? And now they're like, well, maybe that's a bridge too far, Mr. Haaland, and you don't get those lucky bounces or all these calls, the extra energy, the effort, or the form just is like, these are world-class players. You look at the team, I put it in our chat over the weekend, and just on paper, if you look at their lineup that they set out, how many teams on paper is that better than still?
Yeah, there's... I think, but that's the thing. Our perception of the players changes with the form on some level. Phil Foden scored the goal against Villa. It was a consolation goal. They didn't have enough time to go find the equalizer. But Phil Foden has gone from... It's very similar, although it happened over the course of 2 seasons here for Foden. Foden was the player of the year in the Premier League last year. The player of the year. The best player in the estimation of the voters in the entire Premier League at the age of, 23 last season? Phil Foden has that one goal in 2024-25.
Is that the spark that turns it all around?
Through 17 matches. maybe, but I think, I mean, Phil Foden didn't become a bad player. Like, he didn't go from the best player in the Premier League to a bad player. Something else has happened, right? And we came into the year, he was ill, he wasn't training well. Guardiola, and I'm picking on this one story because you go back in time and you think, wow, maybe there was some warning signs there. Maybe because what you said is true, Rob. When we were getting ready for the show, you said, like for the Patriots collapse or fall off from being a Super Bowl AFC contender every year to not. Hey, Tom Brady left. He's the best quarterback in the history of the game. If you lose him, of course you're not going to be as good. We can point to Tom Brady leaving the Patriots and go, that's why they're not as good. What can you point to here? What can you do with City and say, here's the thing? And maybe it doesn't have to be. That's reductive, right? That misses a lot of things can be happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like maybe Guardiola's message has finally gotten stale. Maybe his passion isn't there anymore. Maybe these players are just a little bit complacent, right? Maybe the age in the case of Kyle Walker, which has been so obvious, in the case of you bring back Gundogan, you're leaning into Gundogan. That doesn't seem to have worked. De Bruyne has certainly, with his injury issues and his age, he hasn't been nearly as effective as he's been in the past, right? I've seen the opinion pieces that Pep Guardiola basically coached the flair out of Jack Grealish and made him a boring player now. But
that's a whole argument to itself. I mean, does he round off the edges of all of his players, and after being at City longer than any other place, has he just finally rounded off the edges to all of his players?
And then, of course, it's Rodri. Now, maybe that's the thing. If you want to be reductive, you can go straight to the Rodri factor. But come on, they can win games without Rodri. They didn't lose without Rodri, or with Rodri in the lineup. Rather, they didn't lose with Rodri in the lineup. But that doesn't mean that when he was out in previous to this, when he missed a game, that they were terrible and couldn't win. But they have suddenly forgotten how to win games. Like it does not happen for them anymore. And there is always a chance here too, right? If you and I've seen a little bit. I'm not the best with the analytics. My math brain only goes so far for me. But I've seen the arguments that you can see that the expected goals advantage for City has dropped off because sometimes these runs happen and they're not explicable. Right? You can look at a team who wins a lot, a team who overperforms, and they make the playoffs. St. Louis is a good example in Major League Soccer, right? St. Louis in year one has this incredible start to life in MLS, and it looks great, but if you dig a little deeper, the numbers suggest that, hey, they're really not that good. In this case, you could imagine that it might be possible that City is still pretty good. They're just not getting the breaks they used to get, or the luck has run out for a moment, because that can be a factor. But if you look at the numbers, it does feel like City's form is related to their performance in a pretty one-for-one kind of way, which means is there a light at the end of this tunnel? What is the thing here that's going to turn it around? And maybe City in this form is just a fourth or fifth place team, which would be a drop, but not spectacular in the way that it's been happening recently.
Yeah, plenty of time and plenty of games to get back into that top four, no doubt. And genuinely, in the chat, viewers, if you come up with a precedent in your mind of a sports team falling off so incredibly, going from first to worst placed form, overnight, please send that in to at mkickaround on social media or morningkickaround@gmail.com. Like, genuinely, I'd love to hear a story of a light switch being shut off from an elite team, going completely 180 and falling off a cliff. We won't be doing a show on Wednesday. There's Christmas, of course. Big next set of fixtures on Thursday. Are you gonna do the whole wake up early on Boxing Day and watch games there, Jason?
I will be in Puerto Rico for Christmas, which is an annual thing. So I will be in Puerto Rico for Boxing Day. There's a chance things happen an hour later. I have to get adjusted to the time zone difference, but things are they're
The time zone's different there.
The time zone's different there. It's 1 hour.
They're on Central.
Ahead.
Oh, ahead. So like super East Coast.
Of East Coast.
Super Eastern time.
The super East Coast time zone. Yes, Rob. That's what it's actually listed as if you go look it up. It's called the super East Coast time zone. No, it's called Atlantic time.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
So I don't think I have to get up I have to check the calendar. I have to look into my Boxing Day plans.
Ooh, 6:30 for Man City Everton is an early one.
6:30 your time?
Your Puerto Rico Super East Coast time would be
Super
6:30 Manchester City Everton.
6:30 in the morning? That's too early. No, that one I'm probably not doing. But I will have to make my. What about you? What you're doing? What are you doing? What's going on?
Oh, so maybe I'm completely doing this wrong because that would probably make that 8:30 for you then, wouldn't it? Well, anyway, time zones are hard apparently.
I'm very confused by what you're doing right now. I don't know what you're doing right now.
Either way, I'm looking forward to Liverpool and Leicester. But lots of games on Thursday. I didn't know. I learned something new today. There is a Atlantic time zone. So thank you for educating me on that.
There are time zones all around the globe, Rob. There are many
I did know that.
time zones.
I did know that. I didn't know that there was enough distance off of the coast to fall into another zone.
Okay.
It's like the mountain time. No one thinks about
think
the mountain time.
okay, geography. Do we need to do this? Like the east coast of the United States, and then if you go into the Caribbean, things are further east in the. Okay.
Yeah, my geography teacher sending me coal this Christmas.
Apparently, yeah.
All good. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope everyone has a fantastic holiday. Our next show, Monday, we will have a New Year's Eve show here. So everybody, please, until next time, enjoy your soccer.